You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. Let me drop you into a feedback meeting I recently had with a family. A parent sat down with me to go over the results of a psychoeducational evaluation for their early elementary age kiddo. Really sweet kid, socially connected, bright, really strong language, strong heart. School looked fine, but the parent said, reading mechanics and spelling are getting harder. She's getting more and more frustrated. And then mom said, I also notice math facts are getting kind of weird. Not because she didn't understand the idea of math, because holding the numbers accurately was starting to feel stressful for her. The pattern fit what we'd been wondering. Overall cognitive abilities were strong, especially her verbal reasoning. But there was a specific weakness in something called orthographic processing. It's the letter word memory system that helps the brain store and retrieve the visual patterns of letters and words. The parent said to me, teachers don't always see it because she can compensate. And I said, yes, exactly. She's masking. Comprehension isn't the issue. The breakdown is the mental picture of letters and sometimes numbers. That's why math facts can get strange. The concept can be there, but the symbols can drift. Then attention came up with the parents. Teacher checklists had been elevated. Teacher checklists had some elevated concerns, but the overall picture didn't support ADHD at a diagnosable level right now. And here's the nuance. When a kid's brain is working overtime to decode and spell to do what other kids do automatically, attention can look shakier. So the plan was support the learning bottleneck and monitor attention over time as demands increase. And then we shifted to the roadmap. We wanted to make sure the kiddo had targeted intervention to build orthographic mapping and spelling, plus supports to reduce fatigue and protect the child's confidence. Because here's the line I want you to keep. It's not a motivation problem. It's a mapping problem. If you're thinking, okay, that kind of sounds like my kid, stay with me. I'm going to help you name what you're seeing without spiraling, and I'll give you a school script you can actually use without writing a novel. Welcome back to Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, school psychologist and parent coach, and mom of 2 big-hearted, big-feeling, big-brain kiddos. Carline parents, I see you. The ones listening with one hand on the steering wheel and one eye on the clock, thinking, please, 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 let today be a low-drama homework night. I see you. Here's what we're going to do in this episode. I'm going to help you spot the not adding up pattern behind dyslexia and the writing and math struggles that often travel with it, so you can stop guessing and start matching support to the bottleneck. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to recognize the patterns that often show up with reading and spelling, writing output, and math facts and accuracy, understand why attention can look worse when the learning load is high, and walk away with kid-facing scripts, school scripts, and tiny wins that you can try this week. Okay, here are 2 quick filters that are short and kind. If your kid's struggle is mostly missed instruction or inconsistent teaching, that can be a completely different conversation. But if you're seeing a persistent pattern with a big cost, you're in the right place. As you listen, keep one door in mind: reading, spelling, writing output, math facts, accuracy. More than one door can be true. Brains are package deals. I think that's really important. Let me say it one more time. As you listen, keep one door in mind. There's reading and spelling, writing and output, math facts and accuracy. Sometimes more than one door can be true for your kiddo. Brains can be package deals. Let's name the part that makes good parents doubt themselves: the messy middle. Here's how I see the messy middle in my practice. Your kid is bright, funny, and curious, and homework is a little chaotic. And you start doing that whole parent math thing, asking yourself, is it anxiety, ADHD, maturity, motivation? Is it me as a parent? No, you're not bad at homework. You're noticing a mismatch between what your child knows and how hard it is for them to show it at home. And I want to name the cost because naming it lowers the shame. The cost is time plus tears plus self-story. Time because everything takes longer, tears because it's exhausting, and the self-story because kids start deciding what this means about them as a person. It becomes personal. And if you're feeling relief and grief at the same time, that's totally normal as a parent. There might be some feelings of relief because there's a name for the pattern. And you might feel grief too because it's been so hard fighting day in, day out with your homework over those homework battles. I want to give you this tender reminder with a little bit of spice. Your child is not giving you a hard time. Your child is having a hard time. Now, we want to zoom out to the brain lens. Not complicated, just clarifying because clarity is calming for us. Here's the simplest version. The brain has to map symbols to meaning. There's letters, letter patterns, spelling patterns, numbers, number symbols. The brain has to store them, be able to retrieve them, and use them fast enough. When mapping is smooth, reading and spelling start to feel automatic. When mapping is not smooth, your kid can still be smart, still understand the story, still have great ideas, but the mechanics are slow. It might be effortful. It might feel fragile under pressure. Here's the image I want you to keep. Orthographic mapping is the brain's photo album of words. Some kids' albums are autosave. Some kids need explicit help learning how to save the photo. This is to help so reading and spelling stop being a daily reinvention for your kid. Here's a quick couple of definitions that I think are important to kind of give us some context here is when we talk about dyslexia, we often think about that as like word level reading. It often can be impacted by spelling or accuracy. We might see accuracy and fluency taking more effort for our kids. Written expression often is like, or like dysgraphia-ish kind of patterns. It's like where we have ideas, but it's like sometimes just so hard to get them on paper. It can also be things like the mechanics of writing, the spelling, being able to plan what to write or the output on the paper or the computer. Math or dyscalculia-ish patterns can look like things like challenges with number sense, calculation efficiency. Concepts may be there, but might be hard to access. There can also be challenges when it comes to the accuracy or symbol handling, and that can be wobbly for some kids. Now, I want to share a tiny myth. Okay, let's do a quick overview. When it comes to a learning disorder for children, it's typically something where we see a reading disorder, or sometimes we call it dyslexia. There's written expression disorder, which is oftentimes, I hear parents, we call that dysgraphia. And then there's also math disorder, which sometimes is called dyscalculia. I'm not going to go into what each one is. We can talk more about it later. You can tell me which one in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. Tell me what you want me to cover more of or hear more about. And I can do a future episode on it. I want to kind of do some myth busting lightning round style. So a couple things that come up in practice that I hear is I'll hear parents say things like, my kid sees letters backwards. Well, that's helpful information, but dyslexia isn't just seeing letters backwards. It's having difficulty reading words fluently, maybe learning to be able to identify letters quickly. Maybe it's with their comprehension of what they're reading. Maybe it's how they manipulate the sounds. Also, a tiny myth that I see too is that some people think that kids grow out of it just by waiting. Now, a lot of children progress through different skills at different phases, right? There's usually a range where we see kids develop skills like learning math facts or learning how to read. But we want to be mindful of where children are. And this is where I think early intervention is so important because if we notice a child is struggling with letter identification, well, then we want to be very explicit and teach letter identification. Or if we have a child who's having a difficult time with reading fluency, how quickly they read, there's interventions or strategies we can use to help increase how quickly they read. If they can't remember what they read, and that's a comprehension concern, we might be doing an intervention that focuses on specific questions and helping them learn how to answer them by going back to the text. Another thing that I think can be absolutely true is that we can see kids who are very bright, very smart, who are verbal, and they can also have dyslexia or a reading disorder. And here's the spicy truth. When it's reading, spelling, math, one of those things eat up most of our kids' brain fuel, attention and behavior can be the first things to wobble. Not because your kid doesn't care, but because their brain is overloaded and they're trying to do as much as they can to take in the information that the other things that they might need to do in a classroom, like sit, pay attention, focus, go by the wayside because they're trying to attend so much and exerting so much cognitive effort into the task, they're not able to do the other things. Now, if attention shows up mostly during reading, writing, or math, oftentimes what I'll think is, oh, this sounds like we want to look at learning load first. If attention shows up everywhere, we see it across settings and tasks. I also like to look for ADHD too, or attention or executive function concerns too. Sometimes with kids, it can be both. Sometimes it's sleep, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's a learning load plus a nervous system that's done. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's learning load plus a nervous system that is just done and totally cooked. We don't guess, we watch for patterns. And here's an important thing here. In this episode, this is not about diagnosing your kid. It's just about helping us look at information, use that data to help us look for patterns and help us see where we can best support our child and how to ask for support so we know specifically what we're asking for. Okay, so if that's the brain's level of why, you might be wondering, well, what does it look like in actual life? Like maybe after school at 3:45. Let me just paint you a picture. Now, in real life, here's what you might see in your own house is that you get home from school and backpack hits the floor, there's shoes just disappear, snack becomes urgent and increasingly like an emergency. And then as you're sitting down to do homework and you're just like, okay, just one more page, and your kid is suddenly in tears, or they get angry, or they're just clowning around and playing with a dog, or maybe they're bargaining with you, like, no, just one more minute on my iPad before I do this page. Or maybe they shut down completely and there's like, you can't get anything out of them. I think this is where we want to think and change the way we think as parents of thinking, okay, this is a child who has been drained and school took everything out of them. And my child, when they are at home, home is where the nervous system tells the truth. There's your this week checkpoint. It's simple and powerful. We want to do a couple things here. We want to pay attention to when meltdowns happen. If the crash happens during decoding, like sounding out words, reading out loud, saying things like I can't, this is stupid, avoiding, think this could be a reading or spelling door. If the crash happens when ideas have to go onto paper, like handwriting, spelling, organizing, getting started on a writing activity, think this could be the writing output door. If the crash happens during math facts, steps, copying numbers, the concept, maybe it's even word problems. The concept is there, but accuracy collapses. This could be a math facts accuracy door. Now, there's a quick gut checklist where we want to look for 3 different red flags that are important to consider as a parent when we're doing tasks like homework. If we notice that it takes a huge amount of effort and our child's progress is slow, that's a red flag. If it seems like skills don't stick, even with practice, and it's not like we're signing the homework binder saying, oh yeah, we read for 20 minutes, but we only read for 10. I mean, like you legit have read for 20 minutes and you've practiced the sight word flashcards and it's still not sticking, that's a red flag. And then the third red flag I see is when there's this big mismatch between the verbal understanding and written output. I've seen it where I ask kids a prompt or a question in testing, like, if you were in charge of school for the day, what would you do as the principal for your school? And a child can give me this massively elaborate explanation with good sequencing and planning, very organized, logical thoughts. And then I say, okay, let's write it. And they go blank. That's another red flag. Okay, so those are the 3 red flags. Now, here are 3 green flags that support is working. You might notice that reading gets smoother without more tears. Or you might notice that spelling patterns generalize to new words your kid's learning. Or another green flag could be homework time shrinks and confidence grows. Let me say this clearly. If your kid can do it, but it costs them everything, like it drains their battery, the power reserves in their battery, we still treat that as a problem worth solving, collecting data and understanding the why behind it. Now, let's shift to the emotional layer because big feelings are not separate from learning. They're part of the deal. For big feeling kids, meltdown is usually information. They're not saying, I hate learning. They're typically saying, this feels impossible. I'm exhausted. If I try and fail, it will feel like I'm a failure. Here's a kid facing script you can use tonight if you're having these homework battles. You can say something like, reading feels hard right now. That doesn't mean you're not smart. It means your brain needs a different way to learn it. We're going to build the map together. And here's the refusal script because, yes, this happens where they refuse to do the homework. You can say something like this to your kid. I hear you. You're done. We're not doing the whole thing. We're doing 2 minutes and then we're stopping. You're not in trouble. Your brain is tired. Then after 2 minutes, you stop. 2 minutes means 2 minutes. That's how trust comes back. And here's your second repeat because it matters. It's not a motivation problem. It's a mapping problem. Okay, now we go to school. This is where parents either get traction or they get stuck. So I want to give you language that works. Here's what I listen for when I am in feedback meetings. So when I'm in a feedback meeting, I'm listening for 3 things every time: the pattern, the cost, and the response. Where does it break? What does it cost? What happens when instruction is matched? That's the whole job. That's the map. And once you have the map, your school communication gets simpler. It can be clear, calm, and firm. Here's, I think, something really important when it comes to schools. Even good teachers can miss this because school sees a slice of the day. There are 3 common confusions. Number 1, comprehension isn't the same as decoding. A kid can understand everything they hear and still struggle on the page. 2, grades aren't the same as efficiency. A kid can get by while it still costs them their entire nervous system. And 3, behavior isn't the same as capacity. Big behavior can be overload, not attitude. We want to remind ourselves of this. Same kid, different math, different day, different costs. Now, here are 2 lines that schools will respond to because they're clear and they're not combative. Line number 1, what is the goal skill and what is the instructional plan to build it? 2, how will we know it's working? What data and when will we review it? So here's an email script you can borrow from me because oftentimes this is where I see parents stall. So I would do an email like this. I'd have a subject like something like request for reading intervention and progress monitoring. Or maybe you have concerns about reading and spelling effort. Or maybe you want to look at a persistent pattern and its impact. Or you might say something, have concerns, and the subject could be like persistent pattern and impact. And you might want to make a request to discuss an evaluation and supports. Here's script number 1 you can use for me. Hi, Mrs. Sunshine. I'm noticing a consistent pattern where my child has strong understanding when the information is heard, but reading, spelling, math, facts, writing take a lot of effort and is impacting my child's confidence and how long it takes to complete homework. What supports or interventions are in place? How often are they delivered? And what data will we review in 6 to 8 weeks to see progress? Here's script number 2. Can you tell me the intervention name, minutes per week, group size, and what progress monitoring data we'll review on X date? Script number 3, when we want accommodations while those skills build up, you might say something like this. While skills are building, what accommodations can reduce fatigue and let my child show what they know without lowering learning goals? And here's script number 4, where you might want to be requesting an evaluation without sounding like a lawyer. You might say something like this. I'd like to discuss whether a comprehensive evaluation is appropriate given the ongoing pattern impact. I'm not looking for a label. I'm looking for clarity so we can match instruction and supports to my child's bottleneck. Here's another script you can borrow from me to get a sense of what real instruction sounds like. And if you want to know what matched instruction sounds like, it's this shape. Small group, explicit decoding, plus spelling instruction, X amount of minutes per week. Let's talk about what real instruction sounds like because it doesn't need to be vague. So if you sit in a meeting and then they're like, oh, they're doing small group and you think, great. But then you're like, wait, what does it mean? Here's what I would follow up on what I would say. You can borrow this from me. And if you want to know what matched real instruction sounds like, it's this shape. Small group, explicit instruction. It could be in decoding, spelling, fluency, whatever. X amount of minutes per week. Progress monitoring every 1 to 2 weeks. Date where we review the data. Not we'll keep an eye on it. We're very specific. What are we doing? How often? What data are we collecting? And when do we review? Okay, now let's talk tiny wins, because your brain can agree with everything I'm saying and still have zero bandwidth for tonight. Remember, pick one is enough. One reminder of 4 tiny wins. If your child is melting down, the goal is not compliance. The goal is lowering the load and protecting the relationship while skills build up. We are not training kids to hate learning in the name of finishing a worksheet. Okay, tiny wins, pick one is enough. Tiny win number 1, the 2-minute win. You want to create one .log sentence for 3 days. You can write something like, reading took blank number of minutes, and what behaviors you observed, and what helped. So it might be, reading took 15 minutes, there were tears, the audiobook helped. Or it could be something like, math facts collapsed after 2 minutes, using grid paper helped, or a number line helped. Tiny win number 2, a 5-minute win. This is where you think about one thing that helped your child be successful. Maybe it's using the book in audio and print format for one assignment. Maybe it's using speech to text for the first draft of a writing task. Tiny win number 3, the 10-minute win for sending a teacher email. Send one scripted email and ask to review data in 6 to 8 weeks on a specific date. And if you're thinking, okay, but what do I say when things are escalating? I've got a free guide for that. Before we end this episode, there are 3 favors I want to ask of you. Favor number 1, share this episode with a friend. If you know a parent who's living the bright kid, hard homework reality, reading and spelling not sticking, math facts getting weird, and homework just turning into tears, send them this episode and say, listen to the part about it's not motivation, it's mapping, and the scripts that get you out of the we'll keep an eye on it from the school and into the minutes and data and a review date. It helped me put words to what I'm seeing. Favor number 2, head to the show notes and grab the freebie. If your house has after-school runway, homework shutdowns, or full-on volcano moments, grab the volcano moments and hurricane-level feelings guide. So you can use one line and say it before your kid explodes. And you don't have to improvise the moment. It's linked in the show notes. Favor number 3, leave a quick review for the show. If Psych to Parent has helped you feel less alone or helped you walk into a school conversation feeling clearer, would you take 30 seconds to leave a review? Reviews are how this show reaches parents who are currently sitting in the car after school thinking, okay, but what's driving the bus here and what's the plan? Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. Today, we learned how to spot the not adding up pattern when a kid is bright and trying hard, but reading and spelling aren't sticking, and why that can spill into math fact weirdness, shutdowns, and what looks like attention problems under load. We talked about the brain's word photo album, orthographic mapping, why the cost is time and tears and self-story, and how to ask the school for support that matches the bottleneck, with scripts that get you from vibes to an actual plan. We'll keep making the homeschool puzzle less mysterious together. One not motivation, it's mapping reminder at a time. One save the photo word album moment at a time. One minutes plus data plus review date email that is clear and firm without being a novel. One after school runway reset before requests. One tiny win that protects the relationship while skills build. And the next time you sit at that round table in the chair, remember, schools have expertise and you are the expert on your child. Your insight is not extra, it's essential. You're not behind, you're building a partnership, and you're building skills, yours and theirs, one small, doable step at a time. Until next time, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white-knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low-stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big-feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.